Hey, hi Chetan. Finally,
Hey,
we are
hi.
seeing each other. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
So
hi
how
everyone.
was how was the feeling of the 770 last evening? Please tell us.
Yeah, it has been amazing. So, like a 1 minute summary of my entire journey would be a few weeks ago when I started this prep. I was basically around 50% accuracy in both quant and verbal.
You
And
started just
even
a
though,
few weeks ago. Okay.
yeah, about, I think I'll say still like I've taken sufficient time. So, about 8, 9 weeks. But
Hmm.
when I started, I really, even though I believe that I was fairly good with quant, I should be good with quant or verbal. When I took the first exams, I was around 50%. And
Hmm.
cut short to yesterday, what happened was I finished my verbal. I took the verbal section first. I finished it with about 2 minutes to spare. I finished my quant with about 11 minutes to spare, and I was
Okay.
actually sort of scared because I felt maybe I've made too many mistakes, and that's why I finished it too early. But eventually I got a Q51 and V42, which
Right.
amount to a 770, and yeah, it felt good. So definitely it has been a great journey with
Tell
this
us
course.
your prep journey, your challenge areas, your mock experiences, and finally, did you face anything unusual on your exam? Just tell us.
Sure. Right. So I think the entire value proposition with this course that I've had is primarily twofold. First is, of course, the GMAT prep, the things specific to GMAT prep, which would include all of your techniques, your theories, this material, your lectures, and so on. I'll come back to that. But the second is, the general your specific belief system and your value system, because through the Know the World program and your other seminars and webinars that are available, what a student gets to see is this person who is who so boldly and explicitly portrays a very strong set of values about the world and your view of the world. And what that can do is shock some people out of their current lives to step back and sort of see the world in a different way, examine their own value systems. And for a lot of people, that is probably the first chance they have at getting some meaningful change in their lives. And I think that is amazing in and of itself.
Thanks, Chetan, for that. This is really, I mean, coming from you because you've already had some entrepreneurial experience, come from a premier institute, so really, really feels great, and that means we are doing some valuable work in changing perspectives and eventually lives. Now, please do
Definitely.
inform about your GMAT and how it went, please.
Yeah, right. So specific to the GMAT prep, I think I think Richa told me that this batch is starting today, or like it just started, right?
Hmm.
I think that's a good time to share this particular thing that I've thought of. So basically, what I want to start with is a premise, which is essentially the mindset that any person can sort of adopt about this entire process, which will make things a lot easier. Which is what I believed in when I started the prep, and which is what I believe in today when I've taken the exam. Right. It starts with the realization that GMAT is an institution that has been around for a while. Okay. You have to understand that thousands of people have gone through it, and it has a set structure to it. It has a set pattern to it. Right. In that sense, let's just, if you agree to sort of treat it like a game, you realize that there are certain things that there are certain set of practices which have been proven to work, right? Just like, I mean, I can go ahead and make like an explicit analogy with a PC game. And if you have played any game, something as simple as like Dave or a Mario, if you play it for a few times, you realize very soon that there are certain set of things that you need to do in order to cross that level, or to eventually win the game. Similarly, if you agree that you have that GMAT, let's say, is a game, and you have signed up for this game by enrolling in this course, by deciding that you want to go for an MBA or whatever, you have decided that you want to play this game, and therefore let us assume that your goal is to win the game or crack the game, do well in this game. Then all you need to do is find that specific set of things which have been proven to work in this game, right? Now, in a PC game, you essentially have infinite resources, right? You can start the game as many times as you want. But in real life, and more specifically in GMAT, you have a very limited amount of resources, whether it is the cost of taking the exam, whether it is your time, whatever. So what really helps is finding somebody who has gone through this process themselves and has collected all of that information, has consolidated that into something which can be taken as sort of the practices which will essentially work most of the times. And therefore, in that sense, what you need to do is find somebody who knows that, master those practices, and eventually just replicate them on your test day. Right? Lucky for us, I think we'll all, most of the people here should agree that Sandeep has cracked that. Sandeep knows what works and what does not. So we have sort of already done the first step. The second is just mastering these practices and eventually taking the exam. So to that extent, I genuinely believe that there is probably nothing specific that I have that is new and I have to add that will drastically change anything that you have already, not collected or you have already done for
Right,
this
right.
course. Uh, but if I have to talk about my specific experience, I do have a couple of things, if that is okay.
Yeah, yeah. Please do share. That is what we'd like to hear, please.
Cool, right. So we'll start with verbal. So as when I started the prep, like I said, initially I was, not doing very well on GMAT like questions. It was because, for example, for verbal, I believe that I was, compared to an average Indian student, I've studied mostly in government schools throughout my life because my dad
Mhm,
was in is in government. So I've sort of moved through all these government schools. So the typical, compared to the typical average student, I believe my English was quite good because I was able to
mhm,
read and write English pretty well. I did well on the English exams, and I did not have specific problems with English, so to say, in school. So I had naturally developed this sort of sense of intuition, right? Uh, so whenever faced with a question, I would have an answer that naturally comes to my mind, and I very soon realized that that intuitive answer is almost never true. And I'm very glad that you also obviously repeat this like a million times in all your lectures, that we don't have to rely on intuition, because that is really true. And so what I did was I absolutely gave up my intuition, like 100%. I threw it out the window. I exclusively subscribed to the techniques and the tips and tricks that you
mhm,
propose that
mhm,
work. And eventually that is what changed the game for verbal, because especially in RC and SC, I think most people would have a very intuitive answer, because CR is still a lot of thinking, but RC and SC, all questions definitely come up with an intuitive answer, and they're generally very wrong. So that is what changed the game in verbal for me. For quant, I think I aptitude wise, it was never a problem, but I did very poorly, specifically on DS related questions, which
mhm,
was because I was not, I did not understand the format very well. Plus, DS has all of its own, tricks and traps and so on. So I did very poorly on DS type questions. But again, whether it is problem solving or data sufficiency, I think for quant also all the material that you have was excellent to crack, all of that. And like I said, I actually finished quant about 10.5 minutes before the stipulated time, and I was actually shocked because I didn't think this was supposed to happen. But
mhm.
I'm guessing there were not a lot of mistakes then.
Right,
So
right.
that has
So,
also worked very well.
and
Finally,
what was the just sorry, I just wanted to know because you talked about the section. Did you face anything unusual on your exam from what you had probably prepared? Because this is one question I always ask everyone.
yeah.
Yeah, please tell.
Right, right. So I think I've heard many testimonials where people say that the exam was a breeze, and we did not face even one question that was like unusual or new. And I guess I'll have to agree with that, because whether verbal or quant, all of the questions seemed nothing seemed like very unusual or new. I have to be honest. It was genuinely, and looking back again, I actually feel that there was no sense of panic through either of the sections, whether it was related to content or how to solve or pacing.
Mhm,
And yeah, genuinely, there were no surprises apart from the surprises related to the specific exam center, that you have all these different people taking different exams and so on. But I
mhm.
think the exam was definitely very comfortable.
Yeah, yeah. And which of the areas took the most time in mastering? Tell me for you. Like,
So for verbal, I think, like I said, RC and SC were the two areas where I had to sort of give up my intuition completely and pick up all of your techniques. But as soon as I did that, I think I heard this in some of your webinars that before you move on to pacing and practice, and
Hmm.
the second part of the prep, you should ensure that you master all of these concepts. And for that, if
Right.
you have to spend basically whatever amount of time on any one question, you're free to do so, right? So I luckily completely agreed with that, and that is what I did. So RC, uh, I think RC was solved very quickly in terms of the mastery. For SC, I definitely spent a lot of time. I did all of the marathons, all of the
Hmm.
sessions, and so they were certainly. I think in terms of the sheer number of hours that it takes, SC probably took much more time than RC and CR. But yeah, I
Hmm.
think that's what maybe was
Right,
needed.
right, right. So, I mean, this is fabulous. I have to really, really admit that 770 is what we're known by these days. Mission 770 is the name of the game that we run,
Right.
and it's really, really super heartening to see that someone and a friend of yours a month ago or so cracked a 760 as well, and you both were studying kind of together. And
Yeah.
that friend was here yesterday. So,
Uh-huh.
as you know, Aditya came yesterday. Aditya and he both were studying together, sort of that, and.
Yeah.
Really, really happy to see. And what's the next plan? Are you planning business school this year, next year? What's the plan now?
So when I started the prep, the idea was to apply this year, but right now I'm sort of again taking a step back and recalibrating when I
Mm-hmm.
want to apply. I think for that I will get in touch with you, either you or Audrey, very soon to discuss
Right, right.
that further.
Great,
But
great.
yeah, I think I will recalibrate for now.
Right, Chetan, this has been one of the most insightful debriefs I've had because you've really laid out the philosophy once again, the validation. And when it comes from someone who has succeeded as recently as you have, actually everyone starts believing in it much more. Obviously, people believe in it, that's why they join the course. People,
Right.
I know my philosophy, I know it works, but still, I think when it comes from someone who's recently succeeded, and all the beliefs
Right.
that we scatter, we just talk about is a very strong belief system I come with, very, very strong. And know the world also really reinvigorates that belief every time you watch it. So thanks for joining us and all the way best. Let's keep in touch. Bye bye.
Definitely. Definitely. Thanks for having me.
Right. Bye bye.